Yippee. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Santiam Sewer Authority Board meeting and the sewer project update number 56. Welcome to the North Santiam Sewer Authority. It's August 5th, 2021, and it's 6 p.m. We're holding this meeting, because we'll blame it on COVID. That's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing, but we'll blame it on COVID. So anyway, roll call. You're on mute.
Thank you. I got booted off the internet, so sorry about that. Ken Woodward.
Here.
Kim Kirsch. Joel Parks.
Here.
Shelley Engel.
She just joined.
Aha.
Here.
Thank you, Shelley.
Hey.
Dale Weezy.
Here.
Hey, audio. Cool. Jeff Smith.
Here.
Jeff Huey. And
Here.
Oh,
hey, Jeff.
hey.
And Janet Zionhall here.
All right, so Tim's not here right yet. He'll be checking in shortly. Any declaration of conflict of interests? Hearing none. Public comment and questions. Please limit public comment to 3 minutes each. Public comments.
Is it okay if I make just a quick announcement before you start that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jen Johnson, wave Jen. Okay, there she is. So Jen is the staff assistant for Marion County Economic Development and Community Services Department. And so she's going to join us today to try to get the notes in real time versus trying to listen to it to help us out. So if she asks you to repeat something, just know that that's what she's asking for. So thank you. That was it.
We understand. All right, moving forward, no comments. We have.
Hold on. I just want to make sure somebody has, John McCormick has a public comment.
Okay, John.
Hey, Ken, there wasn't a raise your hand thing available on there, so I wasn't sure how to chime in. Make it quick. I've been going over the numbers and looking at everything, and I'm concerned that the board has made a significant mistake getting one perspective from the idea of the gravity system versus step system. And I really think you guys should reconsider that because it's going to affect our entire community, the speed at which we can get system in. There's a possibility of getting something in within a year or two that we can't do with a gravity system for 5 years or more. There's a path forward that's much faster. And I feel that the gravity system is not going to retain as many people interested. And if it gets to the point that the board feels the need to force people to go into a gravity system, that's going to be very difficult on our community. And I'm sure the community will fight that. So I want to make sure that you guys understand how significant it is that we consider all the options before just going with one system or another. You want to move forward, but if you move forward the wrong way, it's not moving forward, it's moving backward. And I honestly don't feel that with all respect to the engineer, that they have given full consideration to the benefits of a set system in our community as opposed to the gravity system. So that's really all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask you a question. What numbers? We reviewed the numbers. What numbers were you looking at?
I'd have to go back to the spreadsheet that I got from the engineer. A lot of the things didn't meet with the numbers I've been hearing from other places on step systems. The engineer, I feel, has chosen a generic step system as opposed to a sorry about that. I got a phone call coming. Generic step system as opposed to specific ones that offer certain benefits. And again, we need to look at what's best for our community. And I respect the engineer. My dad was an engineer. I grew up in an engineering family. I understand engineering and I know what they're going through and how they're thinking about it. And you know, anyway, so I don't have any specific numbers for you right now. I'd have to give those to you.
Okay,
Can I
So-
ask one question as well?
go ahead.
So John, what specific are you talking about with the speed of being able to set up a system faster? Help me.
There's a possibility that we could have a system in before a processing plant is in. We could install the lines in the system in the cities and haul the effluent and get something going extremely fast and get people in now so that they aren't investing a lot in septic tanks and a lot in that they aren't going to be able to use in a few years. They're not going to want to get into the sewer system if they have a septic system they've just paid for. So that is a possibility. And the differential between the gravity and the step system makes it well worth looking at, because you can haul a lot of effluent for the cost of $8 million at that, you know, within $8 million. And we would have more than enough time to get a plant in and have a active working system in the meantime. So that's just one option.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Janet, Tim Kirsch is here. He is online. Hello, Tim. So everybody's here.
Hello there.
All right. Anything else, Danielle, you want to add, or?
No, that was the only question I had. I was just trying to get to the speed.
Okay.
Because that is different than the information that we're receiving. So I just want to make sure that we can figure it
Okay. Thank you. Approval of meeting summary notes from May 6th, June 3rd, and July 1st.
So for May, we had, and Jen has been trying to get us all caught up on some of these notes. In May, we had Ken Woodward, Jeff Smith, Joel Parks, Dale Weesey, and then Tim, I believe you joined a little bit late.
Yes.
So those are the ones that could potentially vote on those notes.
I just have one edit.
Yep.
Part C, the treasurer financial report, it was me that gave that, not Gordon.
Thank you.
Any problems with June 3rd? We're going to make a motion, all of it at once.
Well, part B on that one is struck out and it says June 4th, but it should have been June 3rd. I don't know if that matters.
Show me, I'm sorry, say that where is it?
B, action approval of meeting summary, it's crossed out, but it still says June 4th and it should be June 3rd.
Make that note.
Sorry, I don't know where you're, oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, we crossed that out of the agenda because we didn't vote on it then.
That's right.
So let's make that, let's actually X that out completely on the July. Thank you for pointing that out.
July 1st. Summary notes.
Yep.
Any questions? Does anybody want to make a motion? Don't speak.
So Ken, I think we may have to vote on them separately only because not everybody was at everything.
Okay.
So we have to do June, where only you, Jeff Smith, Joel Parks, and Dale Weesey, and Tim
Oh.
Kirk vote on.
Let's start with May 1st.
I make a motion to approve the May 6th meeting summary.
I'll second.
We have Joel first, Tim second.
Janet.
Okay, so you gotta help me out here,
I'm sorry.
Danielle.
Yeah, you have Ken. Let me do this one, Janet, because I have them
Okay.
all. in front of me. That's okay.
Thank you.
Ken Woodward,
Aye.
Jeff Smith.
Aye.
Jeff Dewey,
Aye.
Joel Parks,
Aye.
Dale Weesey,
Aye.
Tim Kirsch.
Aye.
Thank you. Approved. Okay, June 3rd.
Move to approve.
I second.
Tim,
Everybody was here on that day, so
Second.
Shelley second.
And you said everybody was here that day?
Yep.
Okay, so Ken Woodward,
Aye.
Jim Kirsch,
Aye.
Joel Parks,
Aye.
Shelley Engel,
Aye.
Janet Zionhall, aye. Dale Weesey,
Aye.
Jeff Smith,
Jeff, is that Smith? Is that the one day you were not around? I believe it was.
I don't know. I'd have to look.
No, I think you're the only one that got missing off my list here.
Yes.
Sorry.
so Jeff Huey,
Aye.
So we move on to July 1st.
Give me a second, I'm counting them.
I know I wasn't there, Danielle.
And Tim was a little bit late, but that's it. Yep.
Okay.
One,
I see a pattern there with Tim being late.
We're gonna have to make a new square in there late.
Alrighty, let's take it back to high school, okay?
We're working on it.
So
That's
Janet,
tardy.
okay.
Tardy.
So Janet, you were the only one that wasn't there, I believe, that day.
Correct.
Do we have a motion for July 1st?
I make a motion to approve the July 1st meeting summary.
I'll second the motion.
Jeff Yohe seconds.
So Ken Woodward,
Aye.
Jim Kirsch,
Aye.
Joel Parks,
Aye.
Shelley Engel,
Aye.
Dale Weesey,
Aye.
Jeff Smith,
Hey,
Jeff,
Jeff.
is that an aye?
Yeah, aye.
Jeff Huey,
Aye.
thank you, motion passes.
Thank you very
Almost.
much, guys.
Do what?
And thank you very much for getting that. And hopefully we'll be up to date moving forward. Make it
He
over.
will be up to date moving forward. Thank you, everyone. Treasury report, review and pay bills if necessary. Joel.
All right, so yeah, nothing has changed since our last meeting. We still have a remaining balance of $766.95. And we still have a credit with Spear Hoyt, which isn't, I don't remember what they changed their name to, but we have a credit with them for $1,932.
1,933,
32.
32.
And it's local government law group now.
Thank you.
Local what?
Local government law group.
Oh.
And the attorney that we are using at this moment is Ross Williamson. And if there's ever a desire to change that, we can do that at a future time.
Ross Williamson?
Yep.
Okay. All right, engineering design master plan review and approval, Peter Olson, McCray, Carmichael. It's all yours.
And this one may or may not be an action item. I think we're just at a discussion at this set point.
True, very true.
All right. Let me
See if I can do the share screen thing. All right. Are we all seeing that?
Yes.
I see it.
You're seeing my blue screen, is that right? Or are you seeing my?
The wastewater master plan is up there. Looks like page 1 is there.
Yep, that's what we want. So, all right. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me. We'll go ahead and step through this. Glad to be here to review the master plan, the draft master plan with you. Wanted to go over a quick timeline summary of the master plan. We started back in August of last year. And that data collection, for obvious reasons, took many months, as given some unfortunate events with the wildfires. We had preliminary disposal facility siting started in September through October. We had the facility site investigations and analysis in October to May. And that through to May included the additional McCoy site investigations more towards the bottom. There was deemed necessary to do some additional investigation there. We had the financial evaluation and cost estimating running from November through July. Mill City's existing system evaluation, November through April, and the valuation as well, January through April. The planning criteria in the earlier part of the process, November to April, the geology and seismic hazards report was actually should be a little bit later, December. I think that June is a typo. I apologize. So really, it was December, and took a couple months there to get completed. Developing wastewater treatment effluent disposal concepts, that was December through June. DEQ 3 basin rule coordination has been happening for a good portion of the entire master planning process. The conceptual collection system layouts at January through May, and additional McCoy site investigation, as I mentioned, later in the process in April and May, and then the draft report was submitted last week on July 30th for review. Whoop. And so the report overview, you'll see this in the draft report that you received. It has the planning criteria and much of what we just went through right there. The planning criteria involving the main ideas there is the flow and the loading, and the design criteria. The 3 basin rule defining what that is, and the meetings that were held with the different stakeholders for the 3 basin rule. The Mill City's existing system evaluation and recommendations, the collection system alternatives, wastewater treatment and disposal alternatives. Went through, we did quite a search for feasible disposal alternatives that are complying with the 3 basin rule. And very, very much went down the path and pushed on, is it the right thing to do to also get a modification to the 3 basin rule? In the different system scenarios, looked at the basins, looked at the collection, treatment, and disposal, the various combinations there. And then we summarize the communication and public outreach that has been carried out throughout the master plan process, and then a summary of recommendations. Throughout the master plan, we had a few sub-consultants. One of the main ones was GSI Water Solutions, helping us with the hydro geotechnical firm, helping us to analyze and do some field investigations for infiltration, soil permeability, and understand the infiltration volumes that we might be able to get at various locations throughout the valley. And then also did the desktop evaluation of the field conditions to provide us with recommendations. And then finally, with the further investigation that was undertaken in April and May, did a desktop study and some limited field investigations for the McCoy site, as well as some other locations that we did site visits in the Detroit and Idana area. The geotechnical considerations, we worked with Shannon and Wilson. This is a very high level desktop look at the what we should be considering as we look at doing design of facilities and pipelines in the valley, or in the North Santiam Canyon, sorry. And so this was a short memo that provided a lot of maps, helping us to guide us as we move forward into the design process, which we'll be working more with we would be working more with a geotechnical engineer to get further and more specific site investigations and data. The third subconsultant we worked with was Gordon Wilson with FCS Group, and they provided the valuation of the Mill City's existing system, gathered a lot of data and compiled and evaluated that. And then also provided a business case scenario. What does it look like for the North Santiam Sewer Authority to acquire the Mill City's existing system? And how does that work out with the North Santiam Sewer Authority and with rates, with capital costs, and all those factors? How does it work out?
And to add to that, Gordon did put together a document, an Excel-based documents for us, so we can also mess with those numbers if they start changing and all that kind of stuff. So we can do some kind of back of the envelope type calculations if we need to.
Yeah. Yep. So looking more at the master plan, gravity versus step is a big concept, and for the collection system. So this basic quick review here for this slide and the next one, step system is septic tank effluent pumping. We're looking at a septic tank that then has a pumps, and that pumps out into a pressurized collection system. The gravity collection system is here on the right, which would everything flows by gravity out each home's individual laterals to a collector in the right of way, and is collected to local pump stations, which then convey that either on to another basin or to the treatment plant. The STEG, adding that one, is septic tank effluent gravity, which is a majority of what is in Mill City's existing system. And so that's similar to the STEP, except for there's no pumping mechanisms. So the effluent coming out of the back end of the tank flows by gravity, and no pumping is required.
So can we go back just to one question on that, maybe back to what saying about can you build a step system that would be quicker? Or the reason I'm asking this question is because a lot of the pieces that I'm seeing, the requirements from the federal and state government is what is sometimes delaying it. So I'm trying to figure out, is there a mechanism if there were a step system to build it faster, or is it still the same process?
Yeah, it's an interesting question and an interesting comment. You can build it faster. The critical point I would say is, what do you do with the effluent? What the flow that's coming out of it? If it continues to go to your existing drain field that's already constructed and already built, then that effluent would go there until you get the bigger collection system. Or John may be alluding to building the entire, the step tanks themselves, and then also the pressurized collection system to the local lift stations, which then would convey that all the way to Mill City, or to Idana for the other basin. The question being is, what happens with that effluent if you haven't already gone down the line of your disposal option? And he mentioned having that pumped or conveyed or trucked, to another facility, I would assume. And I haven't looked at that. That's not an option that, you know, we entertained, to be able to pump that much flow in every single day and truck that much flow every day. We hadn't thought it or entertained that because of the high cost that would be associated with that. When you're looking at permitting for the disposal option, that's your critical path. That's the task that takes the more time. The actual design and construction of a step collection system, you can do that. He's absolutely correct. That is much quicker, but it would still be waiting on the tail end for the treatment and disposal to be completed. And what do you do in the interim? And I wouldn't be able to talk to all those details right now because that's not an option that we had looked at.
Yeah, I appreciate you trying to answer that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
And can I just ask something? Then you're saying the cost is probably not necessarily extreme, but very expensive to deal with it before you have the facility built.
It would be a high cost. Exactly what the dollar amount, I'm not going to say exactly what that is because I'm not prepared to talk about, trucking, the entire Gates in Mill City or Detroit and Idana flows. And one, you have to find a facility that will accept it, and then two, then actually have it happen and have it paid for.
And so Detroit is a problem in that scenario just because there aren't the easements already there. It would just be we would have to do it kind of on the negotiate each property.
Yeah, and getting the easements for the step systems, in a quicker, if that were to happen in a quicker fashion there, those would all need to happen. And how the sewer authority wants to accomplish that, I mean, those are policy decisions on how that would happen.
That still would take a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
But he's correct in the construction process itself. And then having that happen and have DEQ approve that without a disposal, I wouldn't know if that would be approved or not. That was something we'd have to talk through and discuss with the DEQ.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Master plan. So changes since town hall number 2. I'm gonna pass this off to Dallin to cover a couple slides here.
Yeah, we, since the last town hall meeting, we've been asked by the board to take a closer evaluation of the annual costs that are associated with either a step system or a traditional gravity collection system. The methods that we took from this approach was we tried to contact and speak with public works directors, city managers of systems for both types of both pressure and gravity collection systems. This page here represents the summary of the conversations that we had and the communities we spoke to that are using, that have at least a portion or the full amount of a pressure system. This list was generated based off of a communication with DEQ, a contacted DEQ who permits these step systems and recommended speaking to these communities. We were able to contact 3 of them. The other 4, we did not get information by the time that we had prepared the memo for the board. The results of this memo are that the costs shown in that table in the bottom left are the costs for labor, septic tank pumping. We try to categorize the costs that we discussed with each of these clients or each of these communities into these 4 categories, and found there's some wide ranges in certain of the costs, and some of the other costs were more narrow in the differences. And there were some differences between what we saw in those communities versus what we had originally assumed in our estimates. Accordingly, we recommended changing the costs for the master plan by increasing the labor from $72 per connection to $154 per connection. which is right in the middle of the labor costs of some of these communities we talked to. We didn't recommend changing septic tank pumping. That is highly variable based off of the system being used, how often the service being used, how often the septic tanks are being pumped, how far it has to be hauled and disposed of, and the disposal fees associated with that. We recommended lowering the repairs, parts, and miscellaneous costs, and this is primarily due to the fact that while the EDU costs the cost per connection for some of these communities was higher, there's still a good portion of this community that would be on a steg system and not a step system, and consequently there'd be less pumps to replace, less time needed there. And so that cost could be lower. And then that resulted in a slight increase in total cost per connection. So I think that's the point there. If there's comments here, or if you'd like me to provide a little bit more insight or details into any of these evaluations, I'd be happy to explain some of those comments that we got.
A quick question from Tim Kirsch here. Coburg, Donald, and Tangent, they are all strictly step systems where Mill City is a steg. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's why our total cost per connection is down, because we only have a small handful of our connections are actually ones that have to have a pump in the tank. I would say the majority of our gravity to a pump station. So you think that's why our costs are down per connection?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
that was part of the memo, right, Dylan, that you had provided earlier in the week that I had sent out last Friday.
Yeah, we had evaluated that as part of the memo. Yeah. I will say it's impossible to say exactly what these costs are going to be for this system if a step system were selected for this community. We're doing our best to estimate these, but you have no idea how much labor is going to be needed, what your contract with the septic tolling companies are going to be, all these kinds of things. We provide the best information we can based off of the stage we're at in this evaluation.
I have a question. This is Ken. It's been talked about that you're, going down 20 feet, but I see the new numbers to where you're going down 5 or 10 feet. That's a big difference. In some of the areas, and I'll just speak for Detroit, I can't see very many properties, partials, whatever you want to call them, maybe a dozen of them. Don't have the exact figure, but a dozen of them might need pumps. But 5 or 10 feet, that's, to me, is shallow. Am I correct?
You're talking about the depth of the gravity collection system?
Yes, on the gravity.
Yeah, and it would also reach deeper than that, Ken. I mean, with laying out the collection system, it's not limited to 5 to 10 feet. But yeah, and you're correct. There are properties that will require pumping. It's going to be required, and whether that ends up being a grinder type pump or a step system that then would be pumped out, that decision hasn't been made, and that's something that can be made in later on down the road by the sewer authority as we look at options.
Understand. Thank you.
But as far as the depth, I mean, it's going to be deeper than 5 to 10 feet in a lot of areas as you work through that. It's not going to be everywhere, but we could go over those profiles that we've laid out and look at them. We have laid that out.
And some of these, let me kind of caution, some of these things are, we're at the master planning stage. So that's just kind of like our pointed goal. And so the deeper engineering is going to have to happen. I think the key is getting us a rough guesstimation of what the costs are going to be, because, who knows with the a global pandemic or how things are going to impact, labor costs and parts availability, down the road. And if you could, Dallin, I know you talked to a lot of these cities. Would you kind of talk through some of the feedback that they gave? Because I think like Donald was a good example of, what they had because they had a lot of very detailed information versus other cities didn't have as much detailed information.
Yeah, so maybe, and I'm happy to dive into more details in particular spaces, but Coburg, as you can see, and I think John has mentioned this, that they certainly are an outlier in labor. And my conversations with the public works director, he says we have 6 staff and we are behind on maintaining these systems. They are in a reactive state and not a proactive state. They have, if you can bear with me, I can tell you some additional details. I believe they have 600 connections.
And not all 6 of those, they're not 100%. They're not 100% dedicated to only the wastewater step system. They are split out, and we've accounted for that, in the process, in the estimates.
Correct.
700 connections.
Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah.
And according to them, they spend 60 to 70% of their time on the collection system maintenance, while the remainder of their time is spent at the treatment plant. Donald, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a newer one. This was 2014.
Yeah. Donald, they, and maybe you can kind of spot check me on this as I'm talking here, Danielle, but 400 connections. It's a fairly older system. Again, they have 80% of their time spent on the collection system versus 20% of their time at the treatment plant. They have, I believe, 2 or 3, looks like 3 employees that work on their sewer system. And they did not really emphasize that they had significant issues with maintaining the system. I think they had a couple of call outs, I think 2 or 3 call outs per week on average, or am I getting that confused with something else, Danielle? I don't remember.
They said they received 30 to 40 call outs per year to replace the step systems.
Yeah.
And this scheduled septic tanks to be pumped every 5 years at a rate of $375 per tank, which I thought was actually very reasonable considering. And then they actually provided the full budget for the review.
Yeah, they did. And we took that into account, subtracting out any administrative costs to provide a more apples to apples type comparison here, only looking at time spent on the sewer systems, costs associated with the sewer system. Tangent is a pretty small community. I believe they have 300 connections. Danielle, please check that on me.
500 on that one, Tangent.
500, 600 is what it says.
600?
Yeah, 5 to
Okay.
6. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was mistaken there. It's similar size to the other ones. Tangent, I believe that was a community that they contracted out their labor to be provided by the neighboring city of the village of Adair.
Adair Village, yeah.
Adair Village, I'm sorry. So they contract out that labor, and then their parts and replacements, they pay for themselves and provide those parts to Adair Village to do the maintenance, to do the repairs. And then Mill City, as we've discussed. So as we adjusted our numbers, we didn't feel it was appropriate to be at the same low cost as the lowest option here, nor at the high cost of Coburg, for example. So we established costs based off of what felt like was appropriate and not overly conservative or aggressive.
Yep.
And with
I
Coburg
would,
and Donald, they were both relatively new, is my understanding.
Coburg was newer. Donald, I don't believe, did we?
Donald was 1982, I believe. Was when it was
Yeah,
installed.
much older.
but they've swapped out the manufacturers on theirs as well.
Correct.
Was the reason for the call outs differentiated? Was it due to equipment failure or was it due to abuse by the resident with flushable wipes, coffee grounds, and things of that nature?
It was some of both.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Peter.
No, please.
It was some of both. Oftentimes the point of failure was a valve or a float in that pump station. Less often it was a pump itself that needed to be replaced. And often it was also things such as filters that fed into that pump that would clog with items that were being flushed that weren't supposed to be flushed.
And then one more quick question. The numbers on your graph, are those annual figures?
Yes, that's a cost per connection per year.
Okay, so basically that comes out on an average of $24.50 a month. At $294 a year on the average per EDU, that comes out to $24.50 a month.
Yeah, on the collection side.
Yeah, that's so to maintain each EDU. So that's pretty inexpensive.
Again, that's just the collection side. Am I correct in saying that, guys?
It is just the collection system. So
Okay. Do we have any other pieces here? I'm trying to look through the comments.
well, we had summarized the next slide has the gravity side of things just for comparative and we put a slide together for that one. So yep. So let me get to that. Go ahead, Dallin.
Yeah, so again, with this, we spoke to the city of Staten as well as Pacific Intertech, which is a private company that provides cleaning and CCTV services. The city of Staten's collection system is, again, correct me, I believe it was installed sometime in the 1980s, Peter?
Early, the system started in the 60s, but then, so they have some older pipe, yeah.
Yep, so some of the older pipes such as clay or concrete piping, based off the communications with them, they are costing approximately $1 per lineal foot for cleaning, CCTVing, and doing repairs on their collection system. Just for reference, Pacific Intertech recommends a cost of about 45 cents per lineal foot of gravity collection piping. We had a fairly low cost initially and have since recommended updating that to 60 cents. Not as high as the city of Staten, because this would be a new system consisting of plastic pipe, which does not have as much repair or maintenance costs associated with it, as well as just being a newer system, there's less maintenance needed.
And this doesn't account for all this specific slide, but we have accounted for in the O&M cost estimates, the lift stations, the additional lift stations and power costs and things like, all those aspects as well. But this slide on a per EDU basis didn't, we're providing some additional information, but I just wanted to be clear on that.
So what's the annual cost for this?
Per connection, it's approximately, and we didn't put this on the slide, but it's approximately $36 per connection.
Per year.
Per year.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we can come back, of course. Go ahead, Dallin.
Yeah, so the next thing we wanted to highlight here is after that town hall meeting, we also went back and reviewed our capital costs and our O&M costs for the various options. These 4 tables, easiest way to look at this is the first 2 tables summarize changes that we made to the capital costs and the O&M costs for the treatment systems. The last 2 tables show the changes we made the capital cost and the O&M cost for the collection systems, the options that we considered there. As you look going across the columns, you have the scenarios, A through E. The next column, the previous capital cost is the cost that was in the estimates in the previous draft of the master plan that was provided. And then the third column shows the capital costs adjusted since that time. And we just wanted to provide some clarity as to why we made those adjustments. So the only changes for capital costs for the treatment system were made to account for any improvements to the highway near Blowout Road, where we have tentatively shown the treatment system, the treatment plant for Detroit and Idana. So those costs have all gone up proportionately for each of those options B through E. It does not apply to scenario A because scenario A assumed that we would have a regional treatment plant in Mill City for all 4 communities. The next table, the O&M costs for the treatment systems. The only changes to this was that we had double counted the cost for the addition of carbon at the treatment plant, where those costs were already captured in the O&M costs for the collection systems. So we took those out, and those all have gone down proportionately for scenarios A through E.
So you're talking about like on the, because the Mill City already has that accounted for?
Because we basically had lumped in the annual chemical costs for adding carbon to the treatment plant. We had already had that O&M cost built into the collection system O&M costs, and then we had double counted it in the treatment plant. And so we took it out of the treatment plant, so we weren't doubling up on those costs. Does that clarify, Daniel?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. The third table, capital costs for the collection systems. We took a closer look at this. The number of EDUs that were assumed in that estimate were low. And so those number of EDUs needed to be increased. This obviously affects how many laterals you're putting in, and for the step system options, how many step systems you're putting in. We have since reviewed the latest costs on pressure piping and rock excavation, as these change quite often in today's volatile market. And so as of that, we updated the cost for the installation of pressure piping, as well as rock excavation, which we've not specifically accounted for in our previous estimate. Obviously, this impacts the gravity system more so than it does the step system. You can kind of see there that relatively scenarios, if you're looking at scenarios 1 and 2, which scenario 1 is all steps, scenario 2 or option 2 is all gravity system. The cost increase for option 1, the step system, was an increase of about just under $4 million. This was primarily due to increasing the number of EDUs and the cost of installing the step systems for those. And then option 2, you see about a $6 million increase. This was primarily due to the cost of rock excavation, which we added in. And then we adjusted some of the costs on the surface laterals as we'd assumed that there would be cuts through sidewalk or curb, which, as we understand, is not the case. That there's not very much sidewalk or curb up there that would need to be cut through. And then the final table, the O&M cost for the collection system. The original O&M costs had included O&M for future growth, but that should be excluded as monthly rates, and O&M should be based off of the connections that would be had now. We updated the total number of EDUs, which impact the total O&M cost, as it's based off the EDU cost, that 294 that we had shown in a couple slides earlier. We updated the number of step versus steg systems in Mill City, which impacts how much maintenance needs to be provided. And then that change number 4, we increased the labor for the step systems. We also decreased the O&M on the maintenance cost for replacements. And then the last one, we increased the cost for the gravity system based off of the previous slide from $0.12 per linear foot to 60 cents per linear foot.
Any questions
I-
on this so far?
I would say I would add to this. This is probably a good point here, Danielle, to mention. Since we're providing the draft document for review, Ken had a great question that was passed along to us and pointed out an issue with the costs, and it was just assuming advanced versus mechanical for the Mill City area, and so that will reduce that treatment, the capital cost for the treatment system. That'll reduce that, and so we'll make that update as we finalize it.
And what about the advanced, or what about Detroit and Idana? Will we need the advanced, or?
Dallin, you want to go ahead and answer that one?
Yeah, that one's a wild card, Ken. We have assumed in the master plan that it will need the advanced, just because of the sensitivity of that area, being close to the river. Our best assumption right now is that it will need the highest quality treatment possible. We may find out as we study that area up there, that the DEQ may be satisfied that it's far enough away from the river that it doesn't need the advanced treatment. And in that case, that cost would go down.
Yeah, no, I agree on the advanced, but if we can get away with it, then if DEQ will allow us.
And that's you hope for the worst, or hope for the best and plan for the worst.
That's it. I agree. Thank you.
I have an excavation question.
Yes.
So when you excavate 10 or 20 feet down, however the engineering dictates for grade and all that stuff, do you have to put some type of buffer media back on top of the pipe, like sand or pea gravel, before you backfill it with what was excavated, just due to the number of large rocks and boulders that could impact or sit on top of the pipe at that depth with the whatever number of soil pressing down on it?
Yeah, you wouldn't put those rocks that you excavated back in unless they were crushed and processed and made into proper material. But you'll have the pipe zone material will be, 3/4. There's a couple different types of material specifications for the pipe zone. Above that pipe zone, typically you can backfill unless it's underneath the roadway. If you're in open field, you can backfill with what you excavated. But in this situation, if it's rock, it's going to have to be imported material that would have to backfill to the surface.
So that would be the depth of the trench. You wouldn't just do 2 or 3 feet above the pipe and then use what was excavated. It would be the entire depth.
Correct.
Okay,
It's the added cost for that is that import material.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can we use, do you have to use rock on top of the pipe, or can you use, well, Danielle, they excavate the lake, if they dredge it, then we have all that 3,000 dump truck loads of dirt.
It's only 9,000, sir.
Oh, well, sorry.
9,000 dump trucks of material. So
Yeah,
we could have that.
Yeah, there's certain specified material, Ken, that we're allowed to put it in the pipe zone, that's so below and around the pipe to protect it, and certain trench widths and all that go with it. So.
Hey.
All right, moving on. So the cost summary options, these are just presenting the net present value cost for the collection system and the treatment and disposal options, looking at the capital, the annual costs, for operation maintenance, and then the 20-year net present value. Similar results to what we had previously. So the capital cost of the option 1 is the lower option for the collection systems by far. It has a lower cost. The annual cost is higher, but it still does similar to what it was prior. In the long term, the net present value comes in lower. And then for the treatment and disposal options, those are, similar separation numbers have adjusted slightly with all those reasons that Dallin was talking about. But no, there would not be a change in that recommendation for the treatment and disposal. All right. So for the summary of recommendations that are currently in the master plan, we have the basins, establishing 2 basins. You have Mill City and Gates, regional conveyance of from Gates to Mill City, and then Detroit and Idana with regional conveyance from Detroit to Idana. The collection system, Mill City would retain the existing collection system, and then Gates, Detroit, and Idana with new gravity collection systems. And then the wastewater treatment would be mechanical treatment plant, a new mechanical treatment plant in Mill City, as well as Idana. And then for the effluent disposal would be.
Might have to be advanced treatment. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. Dallin, do you want to address that?
Yep, the assumption is advanced treatment system at this point.
Yeah.
And the costs show that.
And then for the effluent disposal, having the rapid infiltration basin in Mill City, the siting recommendations are the recommendations are provided there, but the specific site is will need to be part of the next phases. And then rapid infiltration basin east of Idana, and we need to perform further field investigation to see if that is continues to be a viable option. And that is the McCoy site. And then for Mill City, the recommendations there was to perform the immediate improvements to the short-lived assets for the existing system, and then have the new mechanical treatment plant, which would be consistent with the long-term, Mill City and Gates Basin recommendation. The cost of the recommended scenario, and as I mentioned already, the adjustment to the treatment in the Gates, lowering that amount would be there, but that's what's currently in the current draft of the master plan.
And this is, if you guys can't see it, I'm just gonna say it has some admin costs, some contingency in there, which is contractor, OH&P, general. What is general conditions? Help me out. That's like for rock and such.
It's for the contractor. It's their costs.
Gotcha. And then with land purchases, easements, purchases, pump stations, and land at the gravel pit, and land for the infiltration basins and drainage fields for the short-term improvements.
Yeah.
We just need to get started on Mill City.
Well, let's talk about that.
Thank you.
Real quickly, Peter, is the Mill City's purchase of the Mill City's existing included in this cost table?
It is not. I don't believe so, right, Dallin? Because that was part of Gordon's business case scenario, not the capital.
But weren't we looking at another way to fund it, Daniel? The purchase.
Yeah, utilizing capital cost up front, using the money that we've already been able to get through the legislature.
We haven't forgot about you, Tim.
Tim, so that is a good question though, Tim. Is there any other concerns? Because I know you have some immediate short-term improvements that need to happen. Some of the discussions, just while we're talking about it, some of the discussions recently have been for the housing authority to be adding some additional housing in Mill City. They would like to do it in Gates as well, but they don't have a plan there yet. And so all of those would require some additional capacity, I believe. So just there's a lot of pieces moving at the same time.
Well, I can see Mill City adding 100 EDUs in the next 2 years, potentially. So we need to have this sewer upgrades for the Mill City plant moving along at the same time, obviously, because we are, at capacity pretty much. So I'd like to see some improvements within the next 2 years.
Well, within the next year, maybe.
Well, and that's the
Oh.
short-term improvements plus, is that what you're saying?
What's that now?
Is that the short-term improvements plus?
Yeah, the short-term improvements need to have our capacity up at least 100 EDUs.
Gotcha, okay.
Those short-term improvements don't increase capacity. What we're showing there, that's just to keep the plant at its current capacity and operating to provide the current capacity that it can. If for expansion, we looked at different there are a number of ways to expand that capacity in the short term that would not involve a mechanical or a more advanced treatment process. And the recommendation there was to move forward with the mechanical treatment plant that's consistent with the long-term needs there for a rapid infiltration basin and expanding the disposal capacity. The challenge there, Tim, for Mill City is the existing disposal, the drain fields that are there they're rated at the same capacity as the treatment plant. And so they're also at capacity. And so you can come in, and as our report shows, is you can come in and expand capacity. And then if you go to a more advanced mechanical treatment plant, those would be more sunk costs because they don't treat to the same level as what is needed for the long term. So there are ways to do that. I'm not not going to say there aren't, but how that works out, that's yeah, I mean, it's a money issue, and what the decisions are going to be made by the sewer authority and the city of Mill City on how to move forward there.
And Peter, it may be worth noting that it may not actually be faster to put in a expansion to the existing treatment plant and get new disposal for that existing treatment plant than it would be to just build a new mechanical treatment plant and new disposal.
You would have to do similar testing and monitoring for expanding the drain field that you would for the rapid infiltration basin, the new rapid infiltration basin for a mechanical treatment plant. You'd have to do the same, similar testing that you would for the rapid infiltration basin. So that time frame doesn't get shortened, even though you can expand the capacity of the actual treatment plant quicker. The disposal again becomes a limiting factor.
Okay, well, like I say, I know that the Marion County Housing Authority is actively looking at putting in some units up this way. So, and Mill City, they haven't made an official proposal yet, but I know that they are actively looking at some things to do. So I have told them that we need to work hand in hand with the development of the sewer system because of our capacity right now.
And Tim, I'm saying the same thing as well on the other side.
Okay.
I'm trying to give them a rough guesstimation on dates and such so they can plan and we can plan at the same time.
Project A.
So looking at the project looking forward or moving on, if that's all.
Yep.
So what we've got here is you see this in the master plan at the end. It's hard to see. I know it's small. I apologize. It's a lot in one graphic. Really, the idea is you have the Detroit and Idana Basin moving forward, doing investigations at the McCoy site for investigation and testing and monitoring. And then moving forward with permitting and facilities planning studies, after that. And then while Mill City is moving forward, trying to advance what you're talking about here, Tim, with the preliminary engineering report for a new mechanical treatment plant for Mill City, with while the disposal site, selection, testing, monitoring, all that happens concurrently.
Is the potential site across the street from Mill City right now?
That is one potential site that we can talk to them about.
Is that a private site or is that a city site?
Across the street to the east is private, I believe. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, to the east is private. There's also across the street to the south, there's a couple of potential areas.
And those are indicated in the master plan as potential sites. Yeah, those are private as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I've indicated here, Danielle and the board, for your benefit is we spent the time today, hadn't done it before, is a pretty quick effort here to get here to the finish line. We're estimating about 5 years and then 6 years for Detroit and Idana, pushing it out a year with working with the Forest Service and other factors and trying to get that disposal site approved, tested, approved, permitted, all that whole process. We're developing, we've got these 2 spreadsheets that we're developing and will get included with the master plan to have more of a Gantt chart look at this instead of the existing figure, so that you can see with the months what it looks like. The things to note here with that is we've put out that 5 and 6 years. There are opportunities to compress that, but it also depends a lot on the DEQ and how they're going to work with us through that process. There are a lot of unknowns that the DEQ will not commit to at this time. That's how their process works. And so and one of them happens to be the interim disposal. If we put a new mechanical treatment plant in there real quickly, which we can compress and expedite that, if the DEQ does not allow us to expand the drain field and, or some other mechanism of disposal in the interim, then we're still kind of back at square one with the capacity and the limitation of disposal. And so that's the limiting factor there, Tim, for the Mill City expansion, is being able to expand the disposal.
Peter?
Yes, Dale.
I was going back through my notes and in one of the tech meetings that caused me a bit of consternation. Where DEQ just flat out said you're 5 to 10 years out. Do we have any way to leverage things to move faster, use the disaster, the fire to speed things up? Is there any way to get DEQ to be a little bit more pliable so things could speed up? So maybe we could get done in 4 years and 5 years instead of 5 and 6 years. That was just a thought that had totally skipped my mind till I was going back trying to get all my notes and different things consolidated instead of sitting here on the RV table. And I read that and I'm at my heart sunk. We've got to have some help from DEQ. We have to. All the higher ups have asked all of us smaller cities to create ordinances and variances and this and that to facilitate rebuilding. We're not getting the help at the state level on the sewer project. And without sewer project, the rest of it is, I mean, we might get back to where we were if we don't have the sewer. Might. We got to get some help, some traction, some leverage on DEQ to help us, to help facilitate this to move along at least as fast as possible, not have them be so staunch and steadfast in their positions. I mean, it's just, it's not a normal situation. As we all say, the fire changed everything except DEQ. And so that's my consternation, was when that 5 to 10 year thing came out of DEQ in that tech meeting, and I reread it, my heart sank. We need more cooperation out of them somehow. I don't know how to do it, but we need some more cooperation out of them.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, Dale, 100% agree. Mind you, Peter can't necessarily push as hard as we can politically. And so Peter's got to follow the rules as they are. Dale, we're going to do everything we can to push this as fast as we can. We have to.
Would it help to write, like, for instance, myself, to write our local legislators and stuff and say, hey, we need some help here?
So I need a master plan to go with. Then we're going to start sitting down and planning who we're going to tackle and what the approach is going to be for each one of those legislators, as well as the governor's office. And so, yes, in time, we want to make sure we're in the right, we're pointing our arrows all together.
Okay, thank you.
First, master plan is first. Getting that done. And then Danielle can go to work.
That's the last slide of the presentation.
Thank you.
We can, any more questions from the board? We'd love to.
Peter, if you move to your page 327 on your, yeah, see, I looked through this thing. I spent a lot of time on it.
Good, let me pull that up.
Real quickly.
All right, I'm there.
Down towards the bottom of, I believe, that page, it said something about standby power required for every pump station. Now, on the step system, every tank is its own pump station, basically, right? I'm alluding to this because there's a rumor, I've reached out, but I haven't heard back yet, to the city of Coburg. Were they required to put in backup power to their tanks, basically, when they put it in? Rumor I heard was that they were, and I don't know if that was required by DEQ or by the city itself.
I have not, I can't substantiate that rumor. And what I would say is I don't think it's typical to have required backup power for step systems. That's a really high cost. They have backup storage step systems that allow for a certain volume of storage, and that's the typical method of for power outages.
And my reason is because there is a concern that during a power outage on the step system, they're only good for like a day on the tanks. Now, Mill City has, we call it a step system, but it's actually the steg system, because the majority of our system is actually probably gravity going to our pump stations. But they're only good for like a day before they start backing up under typical usage. So when we're out of power here for 3 or 4 days, I know I've lived in my house here for over 20 years, and I think there's been 4 or 5 times where we've been without power for 3 to 5 days, or even longer. So what happens within a scenario like that? Does they
Well,
start
I would,
flowing back up into the homes?
if there's not the backup power, you can connect temporary power to pump them out, just like you would any other pump station. Then you have the backup, a certain volume. You don't flush your toilets. You're going just like a water curtailment situation. You would have a similar situation for your wastewater system, that you would need to reduce flows going to the tank. Otherwise, eventually you would have a backup. So, and that time frame of that, it depends on the user, depends on how much they're using, the end result of the volume of the step system that has, how much backup storage will allow, or it will allow for. There's a lot of variables there.
Right. Okay. Because I'm curious because of how much the added cost is to the homeowners versus the sewer authority. Because I mean, our sewer authority, we're saying we're gonna set out and have a bill to everybody. It's only not going to be exceeding $50. But I would hate to say, oh, by the way, your home bills are going to go up another $30 or something like that. I want to make sure that we get an accurate depiction of what the costs are going to be to the homeowners.
And for Mill City, those won't change. What they're experiencing right now, because they're mostly gravity, and there's only a handful of, and I shouldn't say handful. I think there's actually more than just 5, but whatever that number is, that those ones
like
would
40 out of our 800.
they would continue with their current, electric bill, average electric bill is what they have. That wouldn't change for Mill City. For Gates, Detroit and Idana, again, that's also a policy decision. It can be a policy decision, I would say. But from what I understand, typically it's the homeowner pays the electric bills. And so for most systems I'm aware of.
John McCormick made a comment that you'd have about 200 gallons for incidences like that if the power went out. But I know that 150 gallons could be a day use.
Yeah.
So it's not much backup. That's not reassuring to me.
It's an individual user, and how they use their system, and it's not under the control of the sewer authority at that point.
But if I'll just speak for Detroit, and I think Shelley might agree that building the new water facility, they're going to have a backup generator. So that would provide us water. If we were on gravity, we could still flush and not worry about pumps and tanks and moving parts or anything else. We'd still be able to use the system. And with a gravity system, you also have, correct me if I'm wrong, you have generators at the lift stations, which, yes, are going to be deeper than 20 feet, but they're wells. But it's still operational, correct?
Yeah, the DEQ would like to see the generators. I've seen some cities get away with that, or community systems get away without them. But our recommendation would that any lift station for any gravity system should have a backup generator.
You won't get away with that in Detroit.
Yeah, it's especially in the North Santiam communities where there is, has been a history of power outage concerns and issues. It's even more important to have a standby on-site, standby generator. Some communities can get away with having a pigtail, which is a connection, a temporary connection at lift stations, and then they're able to go around and pump out each lift station. I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that for these communities.
Well, I would recommend a pigtail in addition to a fixed generator at every site, because I know that redundancy is important, and I have personally chased generators around going during power outages, just helping to keep them running. Yeah.
I won't necessarily argue redundancies come with costs. There's always added costs, it comes with anything like that. So
most homes have a transfer switch, or putting them in. Some have a plug on the breaker panel itself that you cannot plug into the panel without it tripping the mains off, so you're not energizing the grid. As far as overflows go on a step, I know the Renco, it's a sealed system. You bolt the lid to the tank. You cannot overflow. It will back up into the house before it overflows onto the property. There's no inflow infiltration. There's none of that with that particular system. All the pipe gets, I can't think of the term they used, hermetically, thermally melted together, sealed. So it's like one continuous pipe.
Monolithic, yeah.
Yeah, somehow they bond it together. But it is an entire sealed system, and it's critical that the lids, if a homeowner cracks one, that it gets replaced. And if they keep cracking them, then they get charged for them. And just like if they're dumping coffee grounds or flushable wipes and they have to keep getting serviced and pumped, they get charged for it. It goes against the board policy. But that, I don't know about the other step systems. Not even the other step systems that Renco makes. I just know the Prelos, it's sealed. It would be very tough to get a sewage spill in a power outage. It would back up in the bathtub or the toilet or something like that. And that again would have to be part of NSSA policy, to let customers know that in a power outage, that if they overfill their tank, they're the ones that pay the price. But most people have some form of backup power in the 16 years I've been up in the canyon. And to be honest, if the power's out for more than 2 days, 75% of the population vacates. They don't have heat, they don't have refrigeration, they can't cook because most of them are all electric. Most of them just end up vacating. So it is an issue, and I know we addressed it as a task group very early on. I know that there's been 3 accidents in the last month, if I'm not mistaken, that have taken out a telephone pole. For God's sake, why don't Pacific Power put some vehicle protection up around the poles that seem to get taken out all the time? It's a pretty simple solution. And it is something that somehow needs to be addressed for Pacific Power, is to get stable power out into the canyon, because that's kind of a side issue with the sewer, along with fiber optic broadband and all that. Fiber optic broadband is no good if we don't have any power. So, I mean, I was keeping track of it before the fires. I had a pretty decent list I'd sent to Danielle, and what the weather conditions and all that kind of stuff were. I haven't been to my house in almost a year now, so I haven't been keeping track of it other than what comments are online. But it's almost as important that we get Pacific Power to give us stable power in the canyon as worrying about not having power go out because we have a step system. Even if we have gravity, that doesn't diminish the importance of stable power in the canyon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the only people that would have a problem with it, in my opinion, would be new people moving out there. Thank you.
Janet has had her hand up for a while. Did you get your question answered?
Yeah, Ken got it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Shelley?
Well, I just want to make the point to Dale that we don't have Pacific Power at Detroit. We have CPI, and they are in a big, ginormous project to put all of their lines underground, which will benefit someday when it all gets done. But when you speak about Pacific Power, I'm like, we don't even have them. So it's not a thing in Detroit. We have CPI.
Yeah, and that's a project that was started even before the fires.
Right.
I've been working with them for quite a while on that one.
Yeah.
Keith, like you have something as well.
Who?
Keith, he had his hand up. Nope, he's good. Okay.
All right, are you done, Peter?
I'm done with the summary presentation that we had so far, but I mean, the discussion is what, you know, we're here for the board.
So I am just going to throw out what I thought. I gave Peter a heads up already. As a kind of staffing you guys, I wouldn't recommend that it is not approved at this point, not to be approved because it's not ready yet. There's some organizational pieces I think that need to happen. And so I'm making the recommendation that we have a discussion, but not to approve this master plan until it is ready for DEQ and it's ready for the state legislators and all of that kind of stuff.
I agree. Any other comments?
I have a comment. My comment is that my phone is dying, so if I should drop, be advised that it's not my fault.
Not a problem, Jeff, not a problem.
So
But I agree with holding off on approving.
Thank you.
what I would like to ask the board permission to do is to work with Peter and Dallin and their staff to get this organized in a way that is beneficial to this. What I would like to just double check to make sure is you guys have previously made a decision to move forward on the gravity-based collection system. That seems to be the only thing. And then checking back on those numbers. I want to make sure everybody feels secure and solid on that decision, so I can start working with them on the organizational piece.
But we also agree, or I'll ask Tim. The short term, for Mill City improvements and the new facility. And we have to find a place for a new RIP or RAB. RIP, BAR, what, all that stuff.
All them acronyms, I know.
Oh my gosh, I'm losing it. But we need to look at Mill City and get on. I believe we need to look at Mill City and get going on them as soon as possible.
Well, I appreciate that, and I agree that we need to get ours up and going fast, but I say that the whole sewer authority is important, just as important as Mill City.
Oh, yeah.
We have some pressing building issues, but so does Detroit, and so does Gates. Everybody has the need of this to be as fast tracked as possible. So I want to say I'm not anti-step system at all, because Mill City has a step system, although it's a stag step system, and it has served us well for a number of years. Yes, we've had our problems, but show me one that doesn't have a problem of some sort, obviously. So I want to just make sure that we put in the best systems for the communities. Now, I appreciate all the work Peter's done, obviously. I'm a firm believer in believing in your advisors. You pick your advisors for a number of different reasons, so you got to have some faith in them if you are personally not a professional in those fields, and I am not, that's for sure. So I do have questions. I hear rumblings. I know that when Mill City put in its system, there was all sorts of contentious debate over which kind of systems to go with, as well as locations and all that stuff. And obviously there was those that were against it completely anyway. So no matter which way we go, it's going to be a fragmented kind of process where we will have some folks in favor of what we do and some opposed, like I say, no matter which way we go. So One of my favorite sayings is there's a bull on either side of the fence, so it doesn't matter which way you jump. So we'll just have to work through those as long as we all, once we figure out which way we want to go, everybody's got to be on board with supporting it. That's for sure.
From a financial perspective, the sewer authority is well served by reducing O&M. That's simple as that. I don't care how you get there, but reducing your ongoing maintenance is the only way that these numbers work out well.
I agree that the canyon is in need. You know, Mill City needs to go first as Project A. Detroit and Idana is going to be longer due to the fact of the area and the river. We're so close. So Peter's got his hands full, Peter and Dallin. So his whole group. So to make it work is going to be difficult. We'll get it done.
Jeff Crowther, I saw you nodding. Did I say something profound?
I believe you are correct in the O&M, extended O&M costs. We deal with a lot of different systems out there. And I will say the step systems do create more maintenance issues. Just with cleaning screens, pump replacement, floats, because all that is in that tank. And I think Coburg, somebody said, well, they've got a lot of maintenance involved there. They are trying to stay ahead of the game. They're trying to do the preventative maintenance, but they're getting behind. So you're right. They're spending a lot of money, but it's what needs to be done in order to keep it functioning and operational. So gravity wise, you know, the gravity sewers are out there. Yes, they do have problems. Typically it's in the pump stations. If there are issues, a well-designed pump station with backup power, they can be pretty much flawless. It is all in the engineering. So, you know, I think either way you go is good. If as a operator, and my co-partner Keith on the other end may differ with me, but I would say I would go with a gravity system just for ease of maintenance. To give you an example, I've got a system out there that is trying to hire operators. They can't hire them because once they find out they have to go deal with the septic tanks, they don't want any part of it. And it's easier, less maintenance for a gravity system. So that's my 2 cents.
So I said nothing profound is what I heard.
Well, you know, you look really good, but no, nothing profound.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody else?
Just for myself, even if no one else is interested, I would be open to at least listening to a presentation by Orenco. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but I just like even 30 minutes, I feel like giving them just a chance. I don't know, Danielle, I don't know if that's a question towards you.
I'm happy to set that up. Typically though, what happens when we choose, or you guys choose the master plan, and then we choose the types of systems, right? But if the board wants to move forward with that, I'm happy to set that up. The last time this discussion happened at our work session, that was not the desire of the board. So if you want to do that, I'm happy to do it. I just need to know.
So we asked Peter, how long before you get your masterpiece done for the master plan?
Are you asking with the adjustments here, how long till we get that completed?
Yes.
Well, that's working with Danielle here. So I have a bit of an unknown part in that, but we're going to be doing it as quick as we can because, I mean, under the direction of the board, I know you guys want to hurry and get it wrapped up.
Yeah, we're under the gun.
I have a lot of notes, a
Yeah.
lot that we need to resolve in the language.
So next week. Not pushing, Peter, just not pushing at all.
No.
So can we ask this question? I mean, Joel's asking, he's asking for a presentation. We asked this the last time. Is there anybody else? We have everybody here today.
Does anybody else want to sit in on a presentation by Orenco?
I would be certainly willing.
It's all timing for me. Time of day of the week, whatever. Busy,
Every evening's open for me. So if you have a time that works for you, Tim, I can work with you.
That's only 3. We need 5. The same.
Who's the third one?
Dale said yes, Joel, and then Tim said he's.
Tim.
Danielle, I'll move with whatever the majority rules, so. I know, not a help, am I?
Nope.
Okay, so then my question is then, I'm not hearing anybody else. So then the question is, I'm just going to remind, this is the master plan stage. This is not the total engineering design phase, right? There's another step that needs to go in here. And then of course it goes out to bid and all of that kind of stuff. So if that's, I'm not hearing that as a desire of the board, I want to make sure that I have permission to work with Keller Associates on the adjustments that I have in the organization, as well as some of the language. Make sure that everybody's comfortable with that.
Yes, I am.
Does this need to be unanimous or just a majority vote?
No, I mean, this is just, are you asking me to do this? Yes.
Yes, asking
Yes.
you to work with Peter let's get moving forward.
Okay. And then does the board want another work session prior to us looking at for approval?
Tim, your schedule. You need to be there.
Well, and that's the question is, do we need another work session is my question. Do we feel
Yep.
comfortable with the information we have here? It's just, I'm rearranging the order and adding language.
Yeah, that's my question. Do we need another work session and why? I don't.
I'd agree. We don't.
I agree too. We don't.
We need one.
I hate to have meetings just to have meetings.
Sorry, Jeff Yoe called. I didn't hear you, Jeff. What'd you say?
I don't think we need another work session.
We've been working. So
I see that. To me, that's 4. Is that right?
Jeff, Ken, Jeff, Tim,
I don't think
Shelley.
we need one either.
Okay, Janet says we don't. And that puts just.
Shelley said no as well.
So then I will have a beautiful, the hope is, we will have a beautiful, approvable master plan next meeting. Okay, the only changes that I'm gonna offer is just, again, pieces on the executive summary, the organization of topics and the reordering of them, and then just adding language for mostly on the political side for funding purposes. Okay, so I'm gonna help take that off of our engineers because they don't speak that language. Okay.
Sorry, Peter.
Okay,
Okay.
I have my directions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're running. We got 20 minutes left.
It's good time. We're good. So the legislative earmark for the North Santiam Sewer Project, just a reminder that that money goes to Marion County. It's under HB 5006. It was passed at the end of June. I believe it was June 27th. As of this afternoon, I just checked it. It has not officially been signed by the governor. I don't assume that there is a problem with it because literally everybody's, this is kind of that Christmas tree bill at the very end of the legislative session. Everybody's requests are in there. So I don't foresee there to be a problem. I'm just going to reiterate 40 million for the Mill City Gates area, 10 million for the Detroit IDANA and interim type things, as well as some engineering and some construction on that. So just FYI where we are on that. Let's see if I can move on. So with the fact that we don't have a approvable master plan, I planned on actually meeting with all of your city councils to kind of give them a quick update on all of that. Those will all be pushed to the following month for September. And so I'll be working with everybody in September if it moves through. The earliest is Detroit City Council, which is September 7th. And then I have Mill City Council September 14th, Mill City Planning September 21st, Gates City Council September 16th, IDANA September 8th, and Detroit Planning Commission September 28th. And I have Marion County Commissioners this August 19th. I'll have another one in September as well. And Congressman Schrader has also asked us to sit down with me on the 27th of this month. And so I will be sitting down with Congressman Schrader. Their staff has been very interested on how we get the money. The way they're putting it is the matching funds of what the state did. That's what we're trying to angle for, is that the state put up and now it's their turn. And I just reminded them that the federal government hasn't really kept their promises to this area, including help from FEMA. So there you go.
Thank you.
Danielle,
Ma'am.
there's no guarantee that the planning commission will be meeting there. They haven't done anything for a couple of months now. And I just wanted to clarify that with you. Have you been in touch with Fritz Graham?
It's been a while, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talk often, mostly about the post office, but I would advise that you talk to Fritz because he's got the ear of the senator.
Yeah, Wyden's office and Merkley's office. So Merkley's office, I've actually had a long-term relationship with Merkley's office as well. Their staff person has moved now to the Department of Veterans Affairs. And so I've been working now with their DC staff versus their and I think we will need to also schedule, once a master plan is approved, some radio and maybe something with Canyon Weekly. So I am going to look to people to help draft up letters as well as join me on the radio. Do I have any takers that would be willing to do that? Shelley? Are you talking radio or are you talking write-ups, Shelley?
Oh, whatever. Whatever you need. I'll drag out my dog and my pony.
Thank you. Tim, did I hear you offer?
I would be willing to do anything, like I say, depending on time, day, and availability.
I as well.
Okay.
I did want to give you a heads up that I spoke to the Better Cities group that made an arrangement to come and meet with stakeholders. And they said they met me, they shook my hand, they said, "We understand that you're the sewer guru." And I said, "I dare you to say that 3 times fast." I can't even say it again. So I spoke I mostly answered their questions and it did a lot of clarifying. And it's fascinating how much, well, I'm just going to call it gently misinformation they had. And so I did a ton of clarifying and talked a lot about the plans and the hopes and 3-basin rule and everything like that. So I spoke to them for an hour and a half and it was about 100 degrees out. And they sat there in their long sleeve shirts and were so professional. But it was a really great conversation about the plans and the hopes for we were specifically talking about Detroit, but mostly the information that the sewer guru had. And so it was a really good talk, and they typed and wrote like crazy. So I just kept saying magic wand, because that's what was their whole point of that. So hopefully they listen, and they're going to have a town hall specifically for Detroit, because that's what this work was for. But they'll be reporting about a lot of that stuff. So I'll share with you when I know that information. And Danielle, you might be aware of this event as well, because they said, "Oh, Danielle."
Yeah, I keep telling everybody, remember, there's a commissioner now named Danielle, so now we have to clarify.
And I did clarify.
Prater's office actually tried to call me and they got her, so.
Yeah.
No. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Better City is putting together some kind of like bigger plans of what these communities could look like. Gates, I believe, is also getting some work with
good.
Better City, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. No. So if I can move on to the population and income survey.
Yes.
USDA officially talked to me the other day about the fact that they're currently using 2010 American Community Survey information. As of October, they will be using 2018 ACS data. And she felt very comfortable that the information that they have, when she weighted it based on population of all of your cities, that we would get the most favorable treatment for USDA purposes. So we may not necessarily have to do an income survey. So that's one benefit that just came up kind of the other day. And then if I can move on.
Move on to, you got an email from Lyons. That's going to be a good one.
So the city of Lyons has asked me to come speak to them about their potential approach to a sewer. So that was very surprising to me. I am going into this. I'm going into this assuming that Lyons is just interested in creating their own plan. And I'll let you know anything that comes from that, but that is just the conversation. I do know that they received as well in the same bill for this, for our project. They received money for their water project that has failed, I think 2 or 3 times. They did get money in the legislature for that as well. So I think now the areas, looking at what else they can do. The Marion County Parks are also very interested in adding, potentially being either a long customer or something like that. So when we get to the actual engineering pieces, I think we're going to have to be very diligent about figuring out who of all the partners are going to be, because our flows are going to, that's going to really make a big difference on the flows and how long those pipes are that have to carry wastewater. So we will see on that. We talked about October, potentially moving to the first Mondays of the month. I want to see where everybody's at on that still. I've got Janet as a yes. I've got Ken as a yes. Mondays are good.
Mondays are typically pretty good for me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Mondays are fine for me.
Okay.
Works for me.
Yeah, great, Jeff. And then Jeff Yohe is the only one I didn't hear from.
Yes,
Okay, so then let's go ahead and start from Monday, October, which would be October 4th would be that next date.
Is there a reason that we start so early?
At 6 p.m.
Yeah.
It's just so I can go to bed by a certain hour.
The only reason I ask is I now eat dinner at 8:30. It's really late.
That's really late.
It's really late.
I don't get home until after that. So
I know. And so that's why I asked, especially when you were driving from Mill City back to Salem. I mean, that is dreadful drive, because I know it's a dreadful drive. Maybe we could, how about this? If we could do it at 6:30 until we stop Zooming?
I'm looking around.
Is that too confusing? How long do you think we're going to Zoom? I mean, we're still Zooming and it's August. I mean, I'm
So convenient.
It is.
It's what it's convenient for, at least on this side, is I've been looking actually at different cameras that could potentially, collect the information. And because when I upload it to YouTube, it's super easy to do that. But whatever, if we're meeting in person, I'm here alone right now in this giant office, but we are all masked up again. I don't know if you heard that when you first came in. All the state agencies are required to be masked up, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'm seeing head nodding. I'm one of the only people in my department that is. So yeah, I'll take the guidance on what you guys want. Just know I might come masked. So.
Well, I mean, for a person that lives in Portland, Zooming is working for me. And I believe me, I understand the drive thing from Mill City to Salem, because I do it as well. And then I drive to Portland. So does anybody object to, as long as we're Zooming, to do it at 6:30? Jeff or Tim, would that help you?
Well, I do. I have to leave early to get home in time to Zoom, because otherwise, a couple of times I've done the Zoom during the drive.
Right.
But if you notice, when my camera goes offline during our Zoom meetings, that's when I'm eating my dinner.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I will say, this is Janet. The way Salem has gone, and knowing that Danielle is right there in the middle of downtown Salem, we're getting a little dark towards the evening. I'm concerned about Danielle walking from that building to wherever her car is parked for safety reasons.
I'm not worried about that, because we have a garage.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for that concern.
So whatever. I mean, I'm open to whatever.
Yeah, open to whatever.
Does anybody want to change it to 6:30 and we can help Tim?
Oh God, not to help Tim.
Oh.
It's all about Tim.
That's right. That's right.
6:30.
Okay.
I'll agree.
Okay, so we'll make that adjustment.
And I am more than happy to revisit this later when we eventually meet in person. I mean, we're all flexible these days because we've learned to be. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last thing for me to just throw out there for next meeting topics, please add, if we, obviously we have to then look at the approval of the master plan. We need to start talking about staffing up. It's definitely getting to the point where I can't do all the administrative pieces, as well as we lost our government relations person to retirement. And so now we don't have that very key person for us to help help with the legislators. So that has been problematic, and it's added some additional time of mine. And we are down staff here as well, that we have a new person that'll be starting in at the end of this month. So we need to staff up the sewer authority, and then drafting the scope of work for the engineering next phase. That has already begun. Am I correct on that, Peter? Because McCray and you were working on that.
I apologize. Ask the question again.
That's okay. You stop listening to me. It's cool.
No.
The scope of work for the next phase.
We are actively working on that. I apologize. Yes.
No, it's okay. I just have to give you a hard time now.
I deserve it.
So I have those three pieces: the staffing up, the drafting of the scope of work, and the approval of the master plan
For the
For
next,
any-
for the next meeting.
for the next meeting. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is there anything anybody else needs to put onto the agenda? And remember, you can send me an email and Ken an email if you need something to be added to the agenda. Please have it ready by the, if we're gonna do Mondays, okay, that's October.
It's 1 week or 10 days.
Yes, it's about it's a week before our meeting.
Yes.
So it gives me time to get everything ready.
All right, Peter.
You guys don't know how hard it's gonna be for Peter and Dallin over the next couple of days as I'm gonna give them a list. So,
We're up for it.
Good. Thank you.
okay.
Anything else? So we have the topics for the next meeting, Monday, first Mondays of the month. That's right. Starting the 4th of October.
And then that in October is when we're changing to the 6:30, is that right?
6:30, yes. So September will be 6 p.m. Via Zoom. Anything else, anybody? Wow, 4 minutes to spare. We did good. Anything else?
If anybody had any other changes to the master plan that you guys needed, please just send me a quick note or a quick text message or something. And I'll make sure that those are included in the adjustments.
With all that being said, which is nothing right now, well, guess what? We get to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right, thank you. I'm out.
Well, we know that.
What's new with that comment?